now. Is there anyone out there who wants to go fast? Anybody?
I want to go fast.
Hey, get him a suit. Hurry up, make it snappy. Let's go. Hustle up, hustle up.
Welcome to Speeders Podcast, Episode 1.
Who takes it from there?
I don't know. All right. Welcome to Speeders Podcast, Episode 1. I am super excited.
Hi, excited. I'm Chad. Chad Tomlinson.
Well, I was going to say my name after.
It's nice to meet you. You should always say your name first. You want to just do it again? You want to just do it again? Yeah, we're going to cut this. You're
not going to cut it.
Nope.
Welcome to Speeders Podcast, Episode 1. I am Matt Haye, and sitting not weirdly across from me is Chad.
It's kind of an oblong angle, like a weird diagonal angle. My name is Chad.
Chad Tomlinson.
It is wonderful to be here.
Don't call him CT.
No, I prefer Chad.
Just Chad.
Just Chad. Yeah, prefer Chad. But we are super duper excited to be here. Back away from the mic a little bit when I get.
I am excited, man. How long have we been talking about this? For a year? Has it been a year?
It's been a year. Like you mentioned it at least a year ago, and then we've just been kind of slowly thinking about it and working on it since then.
So excited.
But why have we been doing that, Matt? You wanna tell the listeners?
Because we want to talk about cars, man.
Yeah,
we want to make bank.
Cool stuff. Want to make bank, bro? Want to drive a Range Rover in the hills?
But seriously, we have been wanting to do an automotive industry podcast at least for a year. We've been talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We both listen to different podcasts.
A lot of different podcasts.
Yeah, all kinds of different subjects. But the things that we're most excited about are cars and bikes and, things that go fast and make really cool noises.
And in that vein, one of the things we noticed is that absolutely no one is doing the type of car podcast that we want to listen to. So here we are, Speeders Podcast.
Speeders Podcast, yep.
I'm going to come back and post and add a bunch of air horn noises right there.
I don't think you should.
I probably won't. I'm pretty lazy.
But yeah, I mean, as Chad said, we want to talk about everything. We feel like the podcasts that are out there tend to talk about and stay in a certain lane, a certain genre of the industry, whether it be new cars, imports or lowriders or whatever the case may be. And we kind of like all of it. We want to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
We want to highlight all aspects of the industry. And like I said before, it includes motorcycles. It includes, if we get somebody in here or we find somebody that wants to talk about fast boats, I want to learn about fast boats.
Yeah, I have
because it's all part of the same industry.
Because I'm confused by the whole boat thing, so it would be interesting to have a conversation with someone like that.
I agree.
But however, I am open-minded. I like the idea of talking to a bunch of different people about a wide variety of subjects when it comes to cars. I'd like to in the same vein interrogate somebody who's into stance. Why are you into that?
Seriously.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Why do you do that?
Why do you do that? It's weird. But
in saying that, I'm not worried about offending somebody. I don't really understand it.
Yeah,
there's some cool stuff. I've seen cars that would qualify as stance. I wouldn't drive it. I wouldn't want to own it, but I could
absolutely wouldn't want to drive it.
I could see how
fillings out.
Yeah, I could see how someone would think that would be cool.
Yeah, I understand.
Honestly, I've had a mini truck on airbags, so I can kind of say that I was part of that in some aspect. So I kind of get it because coming from where I came from, lowriders and airbags and hydraulics, that was a way of life to a lot of people,
Yeah, that's a reasonable way to look at it, and I think we should come at all of those controversial topics kind of like that, in the sense that we get everybody, what makes everybody tick is a little bit different. What gets you excited is not going to be exactly the same as what gets me excited. So, but
there again, it's all based on passion for the industry.
Exactly. The object may be different, but the passion behind the object is pretty much always the same, and
that's where we can always unite, and that's why Cars and Coffees work. That's why bike nights work, or because anybody can come with whatever they got, and as long as you're passionate about it, people want to hang out with you and talk to you and ask you how you did it and why you did it and what you did, and I don't know, that's kind of what we want to do. We want to have the cars and coffee of the internet.
Cars and coffee of conversations of the internet. So along the way, we already have a bunch of really cool things to talk about and a bunch of guests planned out. But yeah, we're going to be talking about everything from circuit racing to, old school IMSA to, new car stuff, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on in this episode. But yeah, they're motorcycles, as Matt said. Matt's super into motorcycles. He has a background in that.
Because why wouldn't you be?
Well, we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. That's what we want to do, what we're aiming to do with this podcast. Hopefully we get it right.
Yeah. So who are you, Chad? How did you get to this point?
So my name is Chad. Obviously, I've already introduced myself. See, at this point, I'm just talking until I come up with what I'm going to say, and then right now, I have always been into cars since the beginning. My dad was into cars when he was a kid, obviously, and I think like so many other car guys that exist, he passed that love on to my brother and me. I think everybody who has a hobby can usually trace it back to their father. Whether it be sports,
or a cool uncle, or
or a cool somebody in a like a mentor figure who had the ability and the opportunity to pass along something that they loved. So it's the same deal for me. My dad was super crazy about cars all growing up, and he passed it on to me. And everything from domestic cars to Euro cars to Japanese cars. I really love Japanese cars. But growing up, we never. I think one of the reasons that my tastes are so diverse is because we never had one type of car growing up. Like, we weren't a Ford family. We weren't a Chevy family. Yeah. My dad really liked Chevys, and we had a lot of Chevys growing up, but he also had, in the same sense, like Jaguars, and he had, we had multiple Miatas. We had, one of the reasons that I'm super into Japanese cars, we had a Subaru WRX Bug-Eye, super duper rad, 2003.
Those were cool cars.
Yeah, manual, wagon, just fun. It was just a really cool car. Especially back then when not a lot of things made close to 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
Having a manual wagon that did that was super cool, especially when it snowed the 2 times that it ever did in Kentucky when we were growing up. Kentucky. Yeah. So that's me. That's basically what I like, kind of an arrangement of what I'm into. What about you, Matt? Hey,
kind of the same
you
thing.
Come from?
My dad had cars when he was growing up. Two of the most memorable cars. He had a 64 Pontiac GTO Tri-Power 4-speed, like
awesome,
just a ridiculous car. And then the last one that I remember was a 69 AMX. It had a factory cross ram intake manifold, which was a factory option, which was pretty cool. It's really hard to find now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a welder by trade, and he had a little shop in his garage, and there was always cars and bikes and stuff coming and going. And on Fridays in our, at our house was basically a rolling car show. It was one of the coolest things in my entire life that I got to experience.
Yeah.
Because every day around quitting time, guys would roll in, and if they needed something fixed, we'd get it fixed, or he would get it fixed, and me and my buddies would sit on the front porch and just ooh and ah, and and as they were leaving, it'd be burnouts and see you laters.
Of course.
It was a magical thing as a kid, and it probably set my path forever, because there's just nothing cooler than that.
Yeah.
But as Chad said, I'm into motorcycles, and when I was a teenager, my dad and I would ride dirt bikes on Fridays. We'd go out and do, ride dirt bikes at tracks and in the desert and stuff. And then at some point, I forget when it was, but one of my cousins got a street bike. And as soon as we both got a taste of that was it. I mean, we sold all our dirt bike stuff. We bought, sport bikes. And very soon after that, we were doing track days, full suspension builds. And it was a lot of money.
From mild to wild overnight.
Yeah. But there again, it was just added to my my love for the industry,
Yeah.
Met a lot of really cool people, had a lot of really fun experiences, learned a ton about suspension and the way, vehicles, especially motorcycles, respond to body movement and suspension setups and tires. And it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So
why are you pausing?
I forgot what I was going to say. This is welcome to episode 1. Episode 1, folks. So I guess what I was gonna try to say is, I have also had some experience in driving. Mine was a little bit more, less aggressive than yours, I guess. And that it over my time driving, I have done as many autocrosses and some HPDs. Obviously not enough, and everything that I've been doing in my life up to this point, I am a little bit young. I'm turning 25 this December, so I'm still chasing after making cars work. I'm going to school to become an engineer, and everything is just in pursuit of trying to build a car and hopefully do time attack. I would love to do NASA. I really want to get into rally, but
you want to go into space?
Yeah, to go into space. Well, we've been talking with SpaceX too, but
nice.
Shout out Elon Musk.
Put a track on the moon.
Awesome. They got the sickest dirt tracks on the moon, bro. Oh, so good. You can just use one of those craters. You can use a crater.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be super
Big
sick.
banked oval.
Yeah, that'd be super duper sick. It would take a long time to get there with the trailer.
Well, that was speaking of banked ovals. I mean, that was kind of part of my motorsport upbringing as well. Like because 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, it's NASCAR was king, man, and that's what we did.
Absolutely.
On Sundays, you came home from church, you had lunch, you watched a NASCAR race, and you fell asleep. I mean, that's just what our family. We were never really big stick and ball sport people, and I'm still not. I try to keep a tabs on it so I can have legitimate conversations with people that are. But
we haven't really ever been either. My dad was never into sports growing up. He was always just beeline for automotive stuff, and
this time
again,
of year,
he passed that.
This time of year, especially, like it's kind of depressing because all the motorsports are starting to wind down, and then you've got a handful of months, which is cool. The motorcycle industry, Supercross starts in January, so once I got into that, my downtime for motorsports really was cut in half. So I was pretty excited about that. But yeah, it's always been a part of my life, and I love talking about it. I love looking at what's new and looking at what's old, and
so we definitely share that passion, and so that's one of the things that obviously brought us together. We in addition to that have a very similar sense of humor. We like to get a little bit silly sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. So we started working together. I came on at Detroit Speed. That's where both of us work. About 3 years ago, and since then we've been working together. Becoming good friends, and then a year ago talking about doing a podcast. So that brings us full circle to where we are right now.
Yep. So yeah, that's who we are, and again, with this platform we have now, hopefully moving forward, we'd like to in some way facilitate people to get the next generation or generations into the automotive aftermarket industry,
exactly.
Performance industry. I'd like to talk about history as much as we can. I have a bunch of stories, from guys that I've worked with, personal family friends that have unfortunately passed on and never got to, their stories just kind of died with them. There's a handful of them out with people that have known them, but now it's they're just stories now. They're not, it's not based, it doesn't come from that person. It's more folklore than
as it gets handed down.
Actual history. Yeah. So it's kind of a bummer. Yeah. So I'd like to, we have a guest coming on, hopefully, I probably shouldn't even say it, but hopefully around Thanksgiving time, we'll have somebody that has had quite a storied past.
Absolutely, yeah. Big in the IndyCar scene. That's the biggest teaser we're going to drop. But
I'm really looking forward to that.
That should be either a big, long episode or multiple episodes.
It could go either way, yeah. But I mean, growing up in Southern California like I did, car culture and the history of the car culture, it's so in your face. You almost can't escape it. I mean, there isn't, I shouldn't say this as an absolute, but there's very few cars in California that aren't modified in some aspect. Because, people spend so much time on the road and in their cars. They have to be personal. They have to be.
I guess I was ready to smack down on you on that comment. That's absolutely ridiculous. There's so many people in California, LA alone, that haven't done anything to the cars. But then I was thinking about it, and I don't know. The reality is, everybody does little personal things. Whether
but it's so much more of a culture. It's so much more of the culture out there because you can drive your nice car year round in California, whereas in North Carolina where we are currently, there's a handful of months out of the year where if you love your car, you're not going to put it on the road. So.
And if you're super unfortunate, then you live in like Pennsylvania where they basically just put cancer on the roads that eats up your cars.
Yeah, you can actually hear it.
There's like the while you're driving over stuff, that's actual cancer just eating away at the bottom of your car.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, so those I guess those are the laundry list of things we want to talk about. Kind of what we got to want to get into.
Also the technological side of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially now, with the way fuel injection's going for the aftermarket industry, suspension systems like
the advent of electricity powered vehicles is something that we're probably going to talk about pretty often, especially during our news or current event segment. So yeah, we're looking forward to talking about all of that.
It's a crazy time to be an enthusiast.
Absolutely is. I think it's hands down the best time to be alive for cars. Period. So you got Dodge listing the Elephant crate motor now, 1,000 horsepower out of the box. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's absolutely a golden age to be alive.
It's so funny. On the way over here, I was thinking about, because for the longest time, the 60s and 70s were it. Like that was hands down the best time to be an automotive enthusiast.
And then right out the 70s.
I don't know if you can say that anymore.
I think you can.
I mean, it was super cool, but
I guess if you're talking about atmosphere,
now,
if you're talking about actual culture back then,
but
haven't
now
lived it, don't
you
know.
can have that, and you can have everything else we've got going on.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, yeah, because I don't like. There's so much love and appreciation for muscle cars now, especially. We see unfortunately like the 32 Ford crowd is starting to die out. It seems like, and a lot of those people who are passing down that enthusiasm are starting to pass, which is
those
unfortunate.
Cars will always have their place, though.
They absolutely will.
It'll be less, though, for sure.
Yeah, but in that, we're also seeing an absolute like gangbusters rise for interest and muscle cars and those 60s and 70s eras, specifically muscle cars. So yeah, I think.
But then you got the factories actually building muscle cars again, which is amazing.
Well, I think every single one of the big three American companies that are making cars right now are making more than just muscle cars. They are absolutely world-class sports cars. Especially if you look at the battle between the Mustang and the Camaro going on right now. Those things are record-setting, corner carving machines. They're doing an absolutely awesome job. And then on top of that, they make 750 plus horsepower. Yeah. So I think that's pretty incredible.
That you can drive with a warranty.
Yeah, you can buy that. You can buy that in California, and it doesn't cause cancer. Kinda, not really. Probably does. They just put a sticker on it, so it's no big deal.
Warn you when you buy.
Yeah, they warn you at least. Yeah, known to cause cancer in California.
But I think it's cool too. The time that we're living in, there really aren't any limits anymore.
No,
it used to be. Hot Rod would have a Dare to Be Different issue. Where you'd see somebody put a V8 in a Datsun, and at the time, it was different because it wasn't considered cool until you saw it, and
nowadays there's another counterculture. There are people who look at LS swapped vehicles and they're like, "That's lame. Why would you be so uncreative as to spend countless hours of energy and money customizing a vehicle to your specifications with an LS motor?" Yeah, that's a whole other topic that we can get into.
But
later.
It's just I feel like it's so cool because there's literally no limits.
Yeah,
I mean SEMA is perfect example of that. It doesn't matter what you have. It can be cool.
Yeah.
And, there's the whole sky's the limit, budget thing or, grassroots stuff. I mean, across the board, it can be cool.
Yeah, I think the level of entry is certainly a little bit harder at SEMA, but it can happen and it has happened where, just guys who are just putting it together in their garage are making it out to SEMA. And you see that a lot, especially in like the Optima batteries aisle. I think it's like near the South Hall or wherever, in the convention center it is. But you've got all of the OUSCI cars that are in a row. And a lot of those cars are obviously, $100,000+ builds, on the low end. But, some of them are not aggressively built cars. And they're there just because of driver talent and will to succeed, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. So.
We will be covering SEMA next year, though.
We will absolutely will. We'll do a little bit of a recap this episode.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into that now? Or
yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so SEMA 2018. A lot of things happened. A lot of really cool things happened for Detroit Speed. I guess one of the things that we should say, let's talk about the nature of our relationship with Detroit Speed before we launch into anything else. Because we mentioned that we work at Detroit Speed. Mm-hmm. The nature of this podcast, however, is a little bit separate. We obviously have the blessings from Detroit Speed, but this is not a Detroit Speed podcast.
No,
and that
we're
goes
not sponsored by them. But
yeah, we're not sponsored by them.
Not sponsored by anybody yet.
No, we're not. Yeah. Speaking of which, if you want to sponsor us,
we're taking applications.
We're taking applications. Just submit your money into our email inbox. But yeah, so the nature of our relationship with Detroit Speed is that, you know, basically we work for Detroit Speed. Obviously, we have insider information. You know, we'll be able to talk about, you know, some of those things as they come out. But you know, as far as that goes, like we talk about the stuff that we want to talk about, and that's basically it. So it's everything and anything, like we said. It's motorcycles and all the stuff that, you know, Detroit Speed doesn't necessarily encompass. But yeah, so SEMA for Detroit Speed, though, was an absolutely brilliant year. We had a couple of really, really awesome things happen. The first and biggest in everybody's mind is that obviously the Hoonitruck launched. Mr. Ken Block's and Hoonigan's truck launched, which was a really big project for us at Detroit Speed. Matt and I both in the machine shop. We're making parts. Matt to a greater extent than me, but. Both of us have parts on that vehicle, which is a pretty cool thing to be able to see. Cool. Yeah, and to see it up there, you know, having everybody oogle over it and seeing the live streams and everything like that. Everybody looking at it is a pretty awesome feeling. We may or may not on an incoming episode be sitting down to talk with the people who built that truck. In a much more serious way than we did.
DSC fabricators.
Yeah, some of the DSC fabricators.
Because honestly, it was a miracle effort.
Yeah, it absolutely was. So
we're not going to talk too much about it, but
we're not going to talk.
Things went down. It was absolutely a miracle.
Yeah, I do want to say that, you know, we were definitely given a short timeline, and considering that when we officially started it to the end of the process where it was all buttoned up and it was going out to shoot, it was 7 months right there. Yeah. So absolutely incredible that we were able to get that done.
It was incredible.
But all right, so the Gymkhana Files, which is kind of like a series of 8 episodes that details the behind the scenes of all the Gymkhana, you know, shows, the Gymkhana videos that get posted everywhere.
Also a build up of the truck too.
And a build up of the truck as well. They get posted on the 16th, which is, I guess, today. This episode should be aired on the 16th of November, which is a Friday. So they should be available now. Go and watch them now. And then the big, cool. Yeah, it should be awesome. And then the big event, Gymkhana 10, is going to drop on December 7th. So definitely look for that then.
Yeah, be aware of your internet breaking at that
point. Obviously, it's definitely going to break the whole internet. So definitely watch your internet. Be careful about your internet. Don't drop it before then because you don't want to pre-break it. But a little bit about the truck itself. You know, obviously we built it. We built all of it in-house. We had one of the engineers here, Ryan Matthews, did all the design work for the suspension geometry and everything like that.
The entire chassis.
Yeah, the entire chassis, ready to go, which is really cool. The things we can say about it, it is a 1977 Ford F-150 pickup. I think it's actually an F-100 base.
It is. Yeah, they keep saying semantics. 150. I don't.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 100, I think it's always been a 100. But yeah.
But they did actually start with a legitimate. F-100.
Yeah,
we'll say that.
Yeah,
It wasn't. It's not a complete.
It was bright blue, and boy was it ugly.
man, it was a lifted truck. What are you talking about?
It was a lifted truck, bright blue lifted truck. Man, that's awesome. It's so good.
Ford V8 in it.
It had a Ford V8 in it, but now it does not.
Got that dang V6 in it.
Got that dang V6 in it. But now it has a pretty well worked over EcoBoost in it. It's actually, I guess it's the motor that they used, basically the motor that they used in Le Mans.
Yeah.
And in Le Mans. It was the motor that they used in Le Mans when they were running the Ford GT.
They won that race with that engine.
Did. They won several races with that engine. At Le
it was actually a pretty impressive victory.
It was, yeah.
For that car and that time.
There's a lot of battling going on. But back to the Ford truck that we're talking about. Gosh, you're so flight-headed. just talking about everything. It does have that basic motor in it, which is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. You can see the turbos sticking up out of the hood, and then everybody's been talking about that intake. It's a 3D printed intake, which is pretty incredible.
It is a piece of art.
It is. It honestly is. It's got this really cool mesh in between. You can make pretty much every part of the intake on a CNC machine if you were to do multiple plenums, but the way that it's made, one piece, it's like it's not possible because it's got this really cool honeycomb that goes down in the valley, and it's a really cool intake. The turbos, honestly, I gotta say, I'm gonna come out and say it. I think they're a little bit small. They're cool. They're symmetrical, but I wish they were a little bit bigger.
Well, I mean, the red-blooded American in me wants a V8.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I felt that way since day one of that truck.
Yeah, hopefully maybe one day in the truck's future.
It's super cool, and it actually sounds pretty decent.
Especially
in
V6,
person.
Yeah, I think especially compared to the Ford GT itself, like Ford GT does not sound good. Yeah. I'm just going to go on record as saying that. It's a cool car. It does not sound good. This sounds better than that. Maybe it's because you can hear the turbo spool and you can hear all the wastegate noises and the
well, that and
the gearbox,
you got the big pops when it shifts because it's got a full
the anti-lag.
Rally. It's got a full rally
anti-lag system.
Yeah,
and you know what? Those little turbos actually, they're totally fine because at the end of the day, it makes 914 horsepower and 702 pound-feet of torque, which is massively impressive out of any V6.
I mean, it's okay.
I guess I can live
with it.
You
can buy 1,000 horsepower from
from Dodge now. You can buy a 1,000 horsepower crate motor. Yeah,
sponsorship. Anyway.
Yeah, but back to the Ford truck. Some more details on it. It's got 1552 wheels, obviously. And then again, we basically built it all.
Dude, I'm telling you, that whole entire truck, man, and it actually came down to one or two builders, and we'll talk to them in the future. But the amount of work that these guys did and the amount of time that they did it was absolutely.
It is a harrowing story to be sure, and I'm sure when we sit down and talk to them, we're gonna have to. Make them realize how much work it actually is, because these are some humble guys. They put off the work that they did for sure. But yeah, they did an absolutely impressive job. We're just staring at a picture of it right now on camera. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool in person because you don't realize.
That's what I was gonna say.
How low it is, how wide.
Yeah. Because you look at it in pictures, and because of the proportions, it seems like it might be small. But you got to figure. Like this thing is like 19 feet long. Mm-hmm. It's about as wide as it is long. It's
pretty wide.
It's super wide.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's talking to some of the guys who were there for the whole shoot thing. It's definitely the biggest thing that Ken has ever driven.
And he says that much.
Yeah, he says that much.
The videos that are out already.
Exactly. Yeah. So
took him a while to get used to.
Yeah. So really, really cool truck. We have the
crashed up pieces to prove it.
You can't say that.
Oh, I can't.
I'll just put a boop over that, just real quick. I'll go right back over that. But yeah, so in addition to that, I think that was obviously the crown jewel of SEMA for us was having that out there, because that just the release of it was a really big deal.
About it.
Yeah, finally be able to talk about it. Not have to worry about the NDA as much. But in addition to that, at SEMA, we also had another really big deal happen for us, which was that we won. We won Builder's Choice.
Again,
with
Battle of Builders.
Yep, with Tux, the 1969 Camaro that has been a 13-year process for us. I'm pulling up the Hot Rod article right now.
That car too, because you can look at it really quick. It's a black 69, but there's something about that car. It is, man. And I'm not the big huge 69 fan 69 Camaro fan that you would think any normal male American would be.
Yeah, you get to the point where we see them literally every day, and you get you get a little bit jaded. I hate to say that, but especially with the stuff that we build. Like, you get a little bit tired of seeing them all the time. But this car, there's something about it.
What I think the coolest part about that car for me is it's a show car through and through. I mean, there's chrome everywhere. Mm-hmm. The underside is as pretty, if not more pretty, than the top side.
Guys, the valve covers, the blower, the heads, all of them are body worked. Not painted.
Yeah.
Body worked. But this thing is a show car for sure.
The coolest thing about that car to me is that it's the only car in the quote unquote show car circuit that you can adjust the shocks and then go beat on a racetrack.
Yeah.
And we actually have video proof of it.
You know why we know? Because it's been done before.
It's been done. And Kyle did not hold anything back when he drove that car.
Detroit Speed CEO Kyle Tucker was absolutely not holding back when he hit the autocross with it.
Because we took it to Detroit this year, and that was a cool thing to be part of.
Yeah, Matt was actually there for that.
And we always like to say people's champion because everybody
People's champion.
It didn't win whatever that award. What is that? The Riddler?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, whatever.
We got grade 8, which was awesome. But everybody that saw that car, anybody that walked by said, "This is the car that's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to win no matter what."
Yeah.
And hands down, there was not one person that I met in that whole show, whether it was outside the arena, in the arena, downstairs. Everybody thought that car was going to win, and it really should have. I'm not bitter by any means.
You're not at all bitter. Yeah.
But what I was getting at is in that whole entire Copo Center, there wasn't one car that you could actually drive. And this car, as pretty as it is, you can beat the snot out of it, and it will not break, which is so cool to me because that's what we're about. We build functional hot rods.
Yeah.
We don't build show cars.
And
it just happens to be that this car is beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it's true. And I think another thing about the beauty is that, especially if you're just looking at it, it may seem easy to dismiss it because it's a black car it's a black '69 Camaro with chrome wheels, chrome 5 spokes. So it's kind of easy to, but especially if you were to put a stock '69 or like just a mildly modified regular '69 Camaro next to it, you would see the sheet metal, like quarter panels, fenders, hood, the deck lid. Literally everything has been touched in this vehicle. Everything has been massaged. All the metal has been messed with. It's fully symmetrical from side to side. Like it's absolutely crazy to the amount of work that went into this car. Again, 13-year process.
Well, it was on and off.
It wasn't like there were men working day and night.
Years.
13 years.
But the cool thing about being in Detroit with that car is in the same hall there was 2 or 3 other black '69 Camaros with chrome wheels.
Yeah.
And there was no reason for me to stop and look at them.
Nope.
But this car, even being involved with it as I am, I still want to stop and look at it. And especially when you see this thing sitting on the ground, it grabs you for some reason. It's got so much attitude.
It absolutely does. It's one of those cars that when you see it in pictures and it's one thing, but you see it in person and I think it has a real presence.
Another cool thing too is the owner, like Stuart Adams.
Yeah.
Such a cool guy.
Great guy.
Man.
Super laid back.
And
awesome guy.
We talk about passion for the industry. For the amount of time and effort he's put into that car, to have it
13 years,
to have it win and be recognized for what it is, and it was all his vision. Like Kyle and the rest of the team, they just made it happen. This was all his idea. So it's been neat to be a part of that this whole year with that car. I've never been a part of anything like that or have a car that I've had hands on perform like that. So it's been pretty neat.
I certainly haven't. I mean, I think I remember machining some odd bits and bobs for this car, but certainly nothing as first and foremost as you. I mean, you literally designed and machined the steering wheel for it, which is
that was pretty cool.
Really cool. So
but Chad was saying earlier, that every piece on that car has been modified. I mean, literally every single bolt. We machined every single. Not only is every single bolt an ARP bolt.
Yeah.
Just think of that.
Yep.
But we took every single one of those ARPs and machined the heads so that they all matched.
Yeah.
They were all polished.
They've got this really cool concave radius.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that sets a car like that apart.
Absolutely.
There's nowhere that you look that's stock. Or unmodified.
A lot of really, really cool bits and pieces on that car. But so after kind of the heartbreak of the Riddler. A bright spot was going on to Good Guys and
It's been nice to have it climbing the rest of the year.
Yeah. So we took the trophy at Good Guys, which was pretty awesome, and then the crown jewel of this build process for that car. Was
and I think the Battle of the Builders means more to our company.
I think so as well
because it's our peers.
Yeah.
Not being show car people, I think it means more to have people that. Are just passionate about cars. They're not just there for the show, to look at cars on pedestals.
Yep.
I really appreciate that award. And it's really turned into something. I mean, there's people that are going for that trophy like they are the Riddler now.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Within a very, very short period of time, too.
Well, yeah, I think especially as we go forward, that I don't know if it's going to be necessary to have that. It's certainly not going to have the pull that it had, years ago. Yeah, talking about the Riddler compared to Builder's Choice, because Builder's Choice is tied in with the biggest, trade show ever for the year in cars. So, I think it's definitely hard to compete with that, especially as a standalone show. Yeah. But yeah, who knows how that'll work out going forward. But yeah, big props to everybody who worked on both of those cars. The both the Hoonitruck and Tux, the 1969 Camaro that we built in the shop. I guess some honorable mentions. We made the Hoonigan. I guess they had an episode on their second bonus channel that we made. We were also on the live stream, but I guess they did daily transmissions live while they were there at SEMA. They had kind of like a corner lot carved out with a bunch of concrete barriers at it. And just like in LS Fest West, they had a live audience there that was watching all the mayhem. And again, our boy Kyle Tucker was out there repping Detroit Speed with the third gen. We talk about how this is not going to be a Detroit Speed podcast, and then we spent like 30 minutes.
Well, it's current events, man.
It's current events. It's SEMA. Yeah, you can't get away from it. But yeah, he did a pretty cool little interview there. Zach from Hoonigan cut his sleeves off, which was absolutely amazing. He started with his shirt buttoned up, Zach, the announcer, and then he ripped his shirt off, and he was wearing one of our mullet Z t-shirts with the sleeves cut off, and then he proceeded to cut Kyle's sleeves off just to make everything match.
Comfortable.
Yeah. He did it with a knife, by the way. It wasn't scissors, like a knife, to skin.
We just met. I'm going to cut your sleeves off.
Yeah,
with a knife.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. That was fun to watch. But I guess he channeled that fear because he laid down a sick, nasty burnout. Some great donies. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, that third gen has a who built the motor? It was it was a mass motor. D-stroked LS7. I can't remember the cubic inches of it, but it's pushing 8,500 RPM. Makes 600 horsepower, 600 pound-feet of torque, and it screams. It absolutely screams. It's one thing you hear a lot of LSs. You just hear them all the time, but to hear one with like an aggressive racy exhaust spin to 8,500 RPM is special.
It's crazy too because it sounds like it's got a merged exhaust, which it doesn't.
It does, yeah, and it does not.
No, it's. True dual.
It is a true dual. Yeah, there isn't an X, there's an H. It's not a.
Yeah. That car is amazing.
Super duper aggressive, super duper racy, crazy high compression. Aggressive race gas. It's a super duper cool car. Yeah, it was a good showing, and then from there they went on to OUSEI, and put down a good showing at that on the road course and autocross and all the speed stop stuff that they do out there for that event, but. Some other cool things that happened at SEMA.
There was an unfortunate video of a guy in a 914 in the donut thing.
Oh no!
He was trying to do burnouts, and it was all clutch.
Oh no!
It was so bad.
Oh no! So this was the Hoonigans.
Yeah, on one of their daily
transmissions deal. Yeah. That's sad.
Because I guess you could just show up in whatever you had and try and do a burnout in the lot.
Oh, that's a double-edged sword.
Oh, man. I felt so bad for the guy.
Yeah, that's rough.
That video of the Corvette guy?
Oh, yeah. It's the yellow Corvette.
Exactly like that. Just smoke for days, but it's all clutch.
Yep. For those of you who haven't seen that video, I think it's pretty famous. But
it is pretty famous.
Yeah, there's a dude in a Z06 Corvette, a yellow Z06 C6 Corvette, and he just gets into it, and as the guy is backing up, you can see the rear wheels not moving while the car is going, and smoke just starts pouring from where the transmission is. So yeah I guess same type of deal.
Same type of deal. Yeah,
that's
I think they stopped him because everybody in the entire audience was no, like waving their hands.
I remember. So LS Fest, I used to live in Bowling Green, which is where LS Fest East is based, and it used to get a little rowdy. They had a specific gas station that they would do burnouts at, and back when I was just starting to get into photography, I went out there to shoot with a couple friends, just take really cool pictures of cars doing burnouts at a gas station. By the way, totally unsafe. They're not an actual safe. It was just a gas station that people showed up to, and we did burnouts at. It wasn't no entry.
It's not like there's a fire hazard or anything.
Yeah. Cops didn't like it too much. But before we got kicked out, I'll never forget this. Kind of along a similar vein, I had just come off of watching like a compilation of like burnout fails. and there was this guy with an automatic open diff Chevelle that started doing a burnout. Well, the burnout side was on the opposite side of me, so I saw him just getting down, just getting down on it, and obviously no smoke was happening for me yet because it was just a couple seconds into the burnout, but on my side the wheel wasn't moving, so I freaked the heck out and I was, what are you doing? Stop, you gotta stop. Yeah, I felt like an idiot.
Yeah, you pretty much were.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else is in the news?
Okay, so in addition to that, in SEMA or at SEMA, we have one of the things that caught my eye, one of the things that I got really excited about was this company called Orbis, it seems like they're basically putting together a pitch to sell to another company, but I don't know if they're actually manufacturing this for sale yet. I surprisingly can't find a bunch of information on it, but basically this company called Orbis is making a self-contained electric motor in a wheel. It's so it's a full motor like you would have on a Tesla or like on an NSX in the front or something like that, but it's self-contained inside the wheel with a brake package and all of that. So you can basically the instance that they've done it, I should say, is that they have a Civic Type R, a new Civic Type R, which they have installed this setup on, and they've effectively made it an all-wheel drive vehicle.
Right.
So what they're saying is that it's about 70 horsepower per motor or 140 horsepower total, added to output of the car. They tie it to the TPS of the car throttle position sensor of the vehicle in question. And then they have batteries, I guess, that they mount in the back. But it's got a bunch of really cool stuff. It's actually a perimeter-driven hub, or excuse me, a perimeter-driven wheel. So it's kind of like the motor is in the center, where the hub would normally be, and it's got like a center lock deal going on. And then it drives.
Intricate design.
Yeah, it drives planetary rollers or planetary gears that drive a perimeter gear drive that's actually a part of the hoop of the wheel, so the outside of the wheel that is connected to the tire. So it's absolutely insane because of the packaging. They have an inverted inboard brake rotor. So normally the rotor would be bolted to the hub through the wheel, and then the caliper would be on the outside of that. It's actually the opposite way around. The rotor is a part of the hoop of the wheel, the outside perimeter of the wheel, and then the brake is or the caliper rather is on the inside of the rotor, which is super weird to look at. Kind of like a motorcycle thing, like we were talking about earlier.
Buell did that for a long time, actually.
Yeah. So a couple of cool things about this. It weighs just 13 pounds.
Per wheel.
Which is incredible. Yeah, per wheel. So you're effectively taking a normal wheel and tire setup, which on that car I guess is the article that I'm referencing right now is saying around 29 pounds, and it drops it to 13 pounds per wheel, which is an incredible weight savings. But in addition to that, it also it adds output to that specific wheel, which is absolutely incredible. I think
especially for a front wheel drive car.
Well, yeah, you can make it into an all wheel drive car with some bolt-ons is what they're making it seem like.
Don't some people call front wheel drive wrong wheel drive?
Wrong-minded people will say that. I would like to think that I'm a little bit more tolerant, and I like front wheel drive cars because there's an engineering challenge to making something that doesn't work well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like making a '69 Camaro, run with the big dogs like a brand new Z06.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Man, all right, whatever. You don't need to be so mean.
If you just want to go fast, you just get yourself a '69 Camaro.
Yeah, you can bolt one of these wheels to the front of it and make an all-wheel drive car. Yeah, but I that's where I see us going as a car culture. This gets me really excited specifically because I see a point in the future where we could take 4 of these, you can bolt them on to an old car, you can put a big cell wherever you want to ballast. In terms of weight, just put weight balance where you want. And then you have effectively, I guess this would be a 280 horsepower swap as is. This is just as is. No telling what we'll be able to do in the future with the same packaging. So you'll have a 240 horsepower setup that that weighs less than 60 pounds with all the wheels all told, plus a cell which you place wherever you want to.
Or you do multiple cells to break it up, like you say, and put the weight wherever you want.
Yeah, put the weight wherever you want. I don't. There are some reservations that I have about electric cars. Obviously, noise being one of them. Noise and vibration and all that stuff that makes you have a sentimental attachment to a combustion engine. there's definitely an absence of that when it comes to electronic vehicles, electric cars, electric powered cars. But I think that this is one of the things that gets me really excited for the future when we consider that. Another series that I want to talk about, or another media group that I want to talk about, is Speed Academy, and they've done a series with a guy called Sasha from On Point Dyno, based in Canada, and he has been taking Teslas, like Model 3 specifically, is that detailed breakdown video that I showed you, where they just go through and they replace the suspension and the tires, and they do some things with the management for the motors, and that thing is a beast. Like it puts down really impressive lap times.
The cool thing about, you should actually find that and tell people about it, but the cool thing about the video I found cool. I'm not a big electric car fan. I just not. We can talk about that another time, but the cool thing about that video is in this particular instance, he broke down all the modifications and did them step by step, and each time you could see an improvement, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, it was a full breakdown. So the name of the video, you can go look it up on YouTube. It's 15 minutes, about 16 minutes long rather. It's called "The World's First Modified Tesla Model 3 Hits the Track," and that's from, again, Speed Academy. They're super duper awesome guys based out of Canada, and that, along with stuff like this Orbis wheel, is what really makes me excited for the future of modifying electric vehicles, which again I think are gonna unfortunately be the future.
Yeah, I mean, and also going alongside the whole, I think there's a bunch of companies now doing gas engines with electric assist, and you can kind of pair that like they did with the Honda Civic, so that kind of opens a lot of doors.
Well, also you go from mild to wild with that too. Again, like I was saying with the NSX, I mean, there are so many cars that are doing that now. There's the 918, the Porsche 918. That's the
one I was thinking.
Yeah, that crazy hypercar that has it's basically a hybrid. It just is a hybrid. It's even got like a very Prius-esque, like the motor shuts off at a stop, and then it starts again when you press in.
That alone needs to go away.
I mean, really honestly, don't like it.
I don't know one person that leaves it on.
I was next to like a Chevy Sonic or something. I think it was a Chevy Volt or something like that. No, it was the Spark. It was the Sonic version of the Volt, and it did that. It started up when it went off. I
don't like that. I don't like that. It is super annoying.
It's really weird.
They got to stop that.
Yeah, they got to stop that. But yeah, so that gets me super excited, looking toward the future of vehicles. Again, they don't have any data on or any that I have found as to what it's going to cost, when they're going to be available. It struck me.
How new it is.
Well, yeah, it tells you how new it is, and then it also, the whole entire thing again struck me as a pitch. Like they're trying to get someone to buy the idea that they already have fully prototyped. Maybe I could be wrong. They're, maybe they'll come out with a fully developed package. But yeah, I think that's just incredibly impressive. 140 horsepower to the back of your Civic Type R, which is already like an impressive car, because it makes 340, 360 horsepower, and then about that, and torque. It's a turbocharged K24.
What do they say anywhere about batteries? How many batteries it takes to make that 140?
We'll scroll down a little bit and see what we can find in this article. But one of the things that I'm reading right now that's impressive is their baseline 0 to 60 times, 6.3 seconds for just the car stock, off off the line. And then their samples, so their samples actually range from 5.0 to 5.8 seconds. So there's obviously variance built in when you have a manual transmission. Your times are going to be as good as whoever is behind the wheel. And then so they do the Orbis deal, and let's see. I see 4.4 seconds, 0 to 60.
Jeez.
Which is like a huge jump. That's super duper impressive when it comes to off the line performance. And I guess you think about it, you're adding drive, you're adding tons of grip off the line in the rear. Obviously, front wheel drive cars are challenged just by basic physics, getting off the line. So I'm sure having that extra drive in the rear is a big deal. Who knows how it works on the track? That's one of the biggest things that I'm kind of wary of, because as soon as you start introducing corners, I mean, you think of all the annoying things that traction control does when you're in a corner. Like how is it going to be having a completely separate, and it's not an OE doing this. It's some dudes doing it. So, that's something to be, considerate of. But I'm just super excited about this. I think it's
cool. It's cool technology.
It's super cool. And I'm not
especially for the
seeing,
weight of it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody as excited about it as I am. Like, that was one of the things that stuck out the most to me. It does look a little weird. It's got this little, it's got like a 3-spoke that doesn't move.
Yeah, they do need to work on the aesthetics.
Yeah, they do for sure. They've got these wheel covers that bolt to the hoop or affix to the hoop, and they do something to make it look cooler. But you can't really go that concave with it, and there are some issues there for sure that I'm sure will get worked out with time. But yeah, fender flares, exactly. Yeah, the super duper cool to see that. Other things from SEMA. Do we have anything else?
There was a lot. There was the usual cool cars.
Yeah.
I actually didn't pay a lot of attention to SEMA this year for whatever reason.
Yeah. I watched some light coverage on YouTube. Not as into it as I have been in the past as well.
Yeah. Aside from the things we already talked about, it was kind of the same old for me.
Yeah.
A lot of the same kind of flashy cars.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's really cool stuff. I don't know. I feel like I've seen it already.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that we can wrap up, kind of the SEMA.
One thing I really been wanting to talk about is the C8 Corvette.
Yeah, let's go ahead and segue into that. Speaking of new things.
Yeah.
So
I am not a fan. I am not excited about this car.
Really?
Not in the least.
You're not even we haven't even talked about this. We've been trying to keep it fresh. So you're absolutely not a fan.
I don't care. I like Corvette.
Really?
I think if they call it a Corvette, I think it's a mistake. And I don't know if that's the deal. Have you nailed that down? I haven't seen anything. I keep hearing.
No one knows for sure. And the reality is that. So I worked for GM for a little bit. Not in any crazy capacity. I was just an intern for packaging, specifically at the Corvette plant, though, which is why I know that when it comes to naming schemes and model breakdowns, it is a marketing game. All of it is in charge, or excuse me, all that stuff is left to the marketers. They're in charge of that process. So as far as what it will be called, everybody's calling it the C8. Who knows what it's going to be? GM a couple years ago, I think it was 2017 or 16, they trademarked the name Zora, which, Zora Arkus Duntov is the father of the modern Corvette. He's the one who took the Corvette and took it racing, like made the Corvette into a race car and built that passion around the vehicle. It's the reason that we're involved in Le Mans. All of the reason that it's as much of a sports car as it is. And it's been absolutely killing it in recent years, especially. But I think one of the interesting things in the history of that is that he always wanted to make it into a mid-engine car, which is one of the reasons that it's been rumored, especially with this trademark, that they're going to call it the Zora. Who knows if it's going to be the Zora Corvette or the Zora C8. Everyone in media right now, in car media, seems to be calling it the C8 just for
its ease of reference.
Yeah, ease of reference, I guess. And then there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not it's going to be powered by the new, I guess it's a 5.5 liter Cadillac overhead cam motor. If I'm remembering that correctly, there's a new Cadillac or a motor that GM debuted under Cadillac that's overhead cam, not a North Star, but North Star-esque, much better, obviously. Or whether it's going to be a pushrod car. And I'd say it's enough of a departure, this mid-engine setup that you can see all the spy photos of. I'd say that this is enough of a departure for it to probably be a dual overhead cam vehicle, if I had to guess.
If they make it a separate entity like Ford did with what's the one we just talked about with the V6?
The Ford GT?
The GT.
Yep.
Because
Ford GT.
Because you have the Mustang. And it's
Le Mans.
very, very much a Mustang.
Yeah.
And you have this other thing, which is completely different. I think if they do that, I think it works.
Well, that's the deal, though. I feel like Camaro.
I think you have to keep the Corvette.
You've got Camaro, and then you have this other thing.
I would much rather have a
which
Corvette
is possibly the mid-engine Corvette. I believe it or not, listeners at home, I am on Matt's side. I think that if the Corvette that we know, the GT car, front engine, rear wheel drive, goes away, I think it will be a very, very sad day. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it's a mistake.
I don't think that's going to happen. One of the things that I've heard, rumors, so you obviously can't put much stock in them.
Yeah, we're all
but
speculating.
yeah, all of
at
this is
point.
speculation. But one of the things that I've heard is that the C7 is going to continue to exist for a period of time alongside whatever this new mid-engine car is going to be. But after that, who knows? Who knows if they're going to keep it around? I know especially from a manufacturing standpoint, it's going to be like, I find it hard to think of how they're going to integrate that into the plant that they have. Who knows if it's going to be made on a separate line? If that's the case, then they should be able to make them indefinitely. If they don't want to shut down that line and the existing line in Bowling Green and retrofit, I have no idea what's going on. I've got a couple contacts still left at the plant, so I should probably see if I can talk to anybody there to see what's going on with shutting down and revamping, if that's happening at all, or if it's going to be made somewhere else. I think that'll be a little bit telling, but. Yeah, I think overall, I am excited for it. I'm choosing to be optimistic. I hope that they keep the C7, which I really love, around. But if that doesn't happen, I see. This is one of the things that's telling. So we're looking at an article right now. Some information has been dropped, which is again not at all corroborated. It's not substantiated at all. But it is rumored that this mid-engine Corvette is going to start at $170,000. And I look at that, and I have to believe that they're not going to axe like an FR Corvette. Like that's it. It just can't happen with that price point, because everything has been going up, obviously, in price. Yeah. I mean, I guess the base model is probably up to $56,000 now, which is still that's just a base model. I think I think even the convertible starts at like 60 or something like that now. So probably around $60,000 if you were to go to a Z51 or go up to a Z06 or a Z01. You're looking at anywhere from $80,000 to $120,000 most likely. I'm sure the ZR1s can get up to $130,000, $140,000. With as many options as you have available from the factory. But if this thing starts base model at $170,000, just look at the price point. It can't just axe away another Corvette that is in a lower price point, because that's the natural progression of this deal. Like I hope that this is going to be the Halo car that GM has, and
similar to the 4GT.
Similar to the 4GT, but also a little bit more sense behind the the marketing and the price scaling, because you look at the 4GT and it's $400-something thousand. It's just not like that's the biggest turnoff.
It's legitimate supercar.
$400,000 for V6? Are you kidding me? I ain't buying that. That's junk. It's stupid. It's stupid. Yeah, so I look at that. I look at the pricing, and I think it's just a nice scale, because you have the Camaro. You got like a V6 Camaro, which is like high 20s, low 30s, and then you've got the SS and the 1LE, and that goes up from there to 50, and then the the Corvette takes over, and then you've got that. From mild to wild all the way up to $150,000, and then hopefully you have this, which is hopefully it's crazy. There have been some videos of it, I guess, around the Nürburgring and a couple other places.
But there again, you're talking about a separate model. You're not talking about a new Corvette.
Yeah,
it has to be that way. If it's any
I think
other way,
it's going to be a Corvette. It's going to be a Corvette. I just don't think it's going to be.
It's not a Corvette at that point. It's not a GT car.
I think it is. What's stopping it?
It's mid-engine. It's a supercar.
Okay, so Corvettes have in GT trim beaten supercars historically pretty consistently in a lot of venues.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that, for example, the 2019-2018 Corvette ZR1 is a supercar. Front engine rear-wheel drive.
Yeah. I would, yeah.
So you move up to this next echelon
but it's still approachable. It's not supercar.
ZR1 is not approachable. That thing starts at like $100,000.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's definitely, when you look at in terms of supercar money, like when you look at that, the performance that you get for the money that you spend, I think it's easily the best bang for buck. But still, I don't think it's like, it can't be people's champion when it starts at around $100,000. I don't think it can. You're just removed from that. Like the Z06, Z51, possible. In my opinion, Camaro right now is the best bang for buck. And then really, if you really want to have that discussion, we can talk about used cars. Boy, you better buy you a third gen. You better buy you a third gen everybody. Get out there and make that TPI scream, boy. Just run around in corners.
Because, you talk about the Corvette lineage, and I'm still stuck on the C6 Z06. I mean, that car for me.
I think it's one of the best cars of all time.
With the hips on that thing, oh my gosh.
It does. They're childbearing hips.
And they have the performance to back it up. That car to me is still, the C7 is what it is. I'm still getting used to it, believe it or not.
It's very aggressive.
It's so much more angular.
Yeah.
And I've never really cared for, the Countach. People used to go crazy for that car. It was just nothing but angles, and I don't understand it. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But the C6 Z06 to me for Corvettes is still, I can't move past it.
Yeah, I agree with that. You look at every guy who's out there, doing aggressive circuit style racing. It's usually, if you're going into it, with performance in mind, but also price in mind, it's usually going to be a Corvette. Because you can't do that with a Porsche. Porsches are just the barrier to entry when it comes to financial stuff is too high. But you can pick up a stock, or mildly modified Z06 nowadays for real high 20s, 28, low 30s. If you want to get one with super low mileage, you can spend like 35, and you can get one of those. I mean, think about that. It's a 500 horsepower car from the factory with 3 35s in the rear and two 85s or 2 95s in the front. I can't remember, but it has the capacity to have like 3 45s and 3 15s.
Yeah.
Front to rear, and the thing is incredibly wide. Again, it's one of those Hoonitruck situations where, man, that thing's as wide as it is long. So it's got tons and tons of mechanical grip. It has that leverage advantage around corners. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they are the best performance bargain of all time right now. If you have the money for them, there shouldn't be anything else you buy, because you can take that car and you can go compete with anything, literally anything. Yeah.
Part of it is. The technology, the world we're living in. Do you think? I was thinking about this today, because we're at DSC. No, at DSC we're working on. We have a C3 suspension, and C3 goes from 69.
This is where I'm going to look it up real quick so we don't look like idiots.
68 all the way to like 86 or something.
C3 years. The Chevrolet C3 ran from 1968 to 1982.
Yeah.
That is a very wide range.
And I feel like you had a good time to marinate in that car.
Yeah.
Where I feel like we don't have that anymore.
Dude, you say that, but you got to remember the 60s, especially the early 60s. Every single year, there was an incremental change to the body stampings, to the front fascia,
incremental's fine,
to the hood. I mean, one of the things that we need to realize is that these platforms nowadays, not only is it nowhere near as hard as it was back then to truly, make the next evolution. Excuse me, bump the mic. Is it truly, the next evolution? It's not as hard to get there, because nowadays we have everything stored in computers. It's really easy to take that and evolve on it. Just move a couple points, and then you make that die. Send that die out to get made, and then you do the thing. And it gets all put together in a matter of months or years, I'm sure, that are a lot easier, aided by technology than they were honestly, back then. Because back then it was all drafting boards. And,
honestly though, you could break up the C3 into a couple different categories, because the plastic, plastic fantastic body, the Disco Corvette is nothing like the 60s and 70s Corvette.
So
which still call it C3,
But considering that, I mean, the C3 is an outlier in that I think it stayed around a long time because GM was working on other stuff. During that time, when you look at all the other models that GM had going on, platforms especially, there were pretty regular incremental changes. I think they've gotten shorter and longer in modern times, in the sense that they don't update the body style as much as they did back then, but it seems like the platforms have a little bit longer shelf life. Anywhere from 5 to 7 years, I would say, is probably about normal.
Because it feels like it goes faster, though.
Yeah.
As soon as I got used to the C6, then boom, C7's out.
Well, you think about it though,
and then now we're talking about some mid-engine monstrosity.
Maybe that's the monstrosity. I think maybe that's just the times we're living in. Because you got to consider.
That's what I was saying. Is it just the technology where everything moves?
Well,
freaking fast?
I think that plays into it. Because think of it, the C7, which still feels new to a lot of us, debuted in 2013. It was available in 2013. It debuted in 2013 as a 2014 model, and it's been 5 years. It's about 6 years. It's been about 6 years since that car was released to the public, and we knew about it for a little bit longer. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for the whole entire relativity of time, like how time feels. Because I think, again, kind of like I was saying, they're longer than they are and shorter than they are in different ways. So,
and it could just be that I'm just getting old, and I like the things I like.
That's probably it. You're super old.
80.
Shut up, Crystalia.
Yeah, man, that's C8 from all the spy pictures I've seen, and it just I can't get behind it.
So here's a good question.
But the thing is, like, I felt the same way about the C7. Like I saw that thing with all the angles. And
I think that seals it for me. You're just old.
I really could be, and I'm fine with that because, like I said, you put a C6 Z06 next to anything, and I'm gonna pick that car.
Okay, so let me ask this question then: if you would not be fine with the C8 as it is, would you be fine with a hypercar Cadillac?
You can have this, hold on. You can have the C8. You just can't call it a Corvette.
Okay, so check this out. Let me finish. If you're not fine with that, would you be fine with, as rumors are now reporting, a Cadillac, mid-engine Cadillac, based on the same platform, possibly a convertible, probably a hardtop version available.
Zero convertibles.
Basically the same car. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Because here's the thing:
fan of
you say Cadillac mid-engine. I think of Cadillac race cars, like older generation CTS race cars. Those things were so badass.
They were super cool. I don't know. Were any of those mid-engine?
No, they weren't mid-engine. Okay. But I think of that kind of racing heritage, and that gets me excited.
Guys, if you haven't seen...
Because, I mean, even, the prototype Cadillac cars from a few years ago.
The prototype amazing. Cadillac cars are really cool. I guess they're based on the CT6 or whatever it is now. I'm not sure. But there's an ATS, which is still front-engine rear-wheel drive, and that thing is so cool. Yeah. I can't remember what sanctioning body it ran under, and I'm pretty sure it's still running. But yeah, but still, back to the point. Would you be fine with a Cadillac version, mid-engine?
I would be more fine with that.
Most likely rear-wheel drive.
Don't call it a Corvette. That's my thing. Don't call it a Corvette.
Okay.
It's the same thing with the Ford GT.
Yeah, you're totally
If they called it a Mustang, it would be as dumb.
Yeah, I'm not going to call you dumb, but you're dumb. That's wrong. You got an incorrect opinion.
Dumb, man. I'm still right.
God, look at that. That has the potential to be really cool. When you get rid of all that stuff and some of the plastics are different colors.
It looks like a Ferrari. It's been done already. It drives me insane.
It doesn't look like a Ferrari. It doesn't look like a Ferrari. It looks fresh. It looks new. It looks fresh for GM.
I don't want to be the same as somebody else. So to make a mid-engine something from America,
not the same.
It's a freaking Ferrari, dude. It's the same freaking thing.
We're at the point with pedestrian crash standards and stuff like that where mostly cars are basically going to look the same. I think this is divergent enough. Time will tell. Like, we haven't actually seen the car completely unveiled, but I think this is divergent enough. You say
mid-engine performance car of anything. What's the first thing that comes to your head?
Corvette.
Yeah, you're such a liar.
Yeah, C8 Corvette comes to my mind first and foremost. Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So
it's not the Magnum PI car, right?
What was the Magnum PI car? Was it a Dino?
308.
308.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or 328, maybe.
328. Here we go, not knowing stuff again. That's going to happen often, I'm sure.
Why don't you type in Magnum PI car into the Google Radar?
Magnum PI car. Magnum. Entertain people while I'm typing this.
Chat's typing.
Car. That wasn't entertaining. Magnum PI car was a 308 GTS. Yeah, look at that. Oh, look. Magnum PI car right there. What a classy guy. White pants.
That show was all about Higgins, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Higgins.
Oh, man.
Goldwater Republican, if I've ever seen one.
Higgins was having some fun when Magnum was out of the house. Anyway. I think he would make up things so he would get out of the house.
Yeah, just make up problems for him to go solve.
Because then the cameras would leave, and Magnum would be gone.
Yeah,
and you just
family show, everybody.
Family show.
Show.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
No C8 people.
All right.
Call it a something. Call it a I don't know what you call it, but
yeah, I think you're wrong.
Don't call it a Corvette.
I think you're wrong.
Because it won't be a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. All right, this should be a good point to wind down. This has been the Speeders Podcast. We do post on a monthly basis for now, so look for our next episode on Friday, December 14th. It's the second Friday of the month. You can keep up with us on Facebook or Instagram and continue listening on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. We're working on Spotify. That should be incoming. Just search Speeders Podcast on any of those platforms, and you should be able to find us. We look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited about this. We got a lot of cool stuff, I think, coming up, we think. And we'd like to thank you guys once again for tuning into our first podcast. And this is Matt and Chad encouraging you to unplug and live life at speed. Thanks, guys.
Peace.